I remember my mom told me something. She said, men will destroy a beautiful woman because they will gas their head up, and the woman thinks she's so much finer than everybody else, and she can have all these men, and they give her the attention. And attention is a drug.
Mhm.
So all these girls that get the attention, they think that they can have the man, but that doesn't mean that you can have him. It means you can have him for that moment, and he's serious about that moment. He's not sincere about the totality of it. So then they'll say, later when he actually settles down with a different type of girl, the girl feels like, oh, I could have her man. You could probably have him for a night, but that doesn't mean that you can have him.
You could borrow.
Right. You could rent or lease it for a night, but he probably, because I think women believe that because they can get the attention from a man. And a man reaction to beauty is over. Like I'm not going to go into detail, but I've been around what the world considers some of the most beautiful women as far as society, right? Culture and all that. The way men act, it tricks me. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to marry her. he's in love. It's crazy. Like he is just going in, and it is daunting. That's why I'm like,
yeah, that's so true. Because you see, like,
hard,
what?
like, and it's really not even about her. A lot of times it's about, I want other men to see me get that.
Exactly.
I could pull that. That's why they like to pull each other's chicks. Like all the guys, one of my friends in Atlanta has a podcast called The God Show. Ray Daniels said, he was like, we're all sleeping with the same girls. The politicians, the rappers, the scammers, the drug dealers, because you are being used as a way for him. Just like he got a car sitting out there to impress other dudes. He got this chick. I mean, they get passed around. So I understood later what my mom meant. The attention can get you thrown off, and you can lose sight of the reality, and you will lose in the end.
And men, honestly, we want what people can't have. So I think back then it was like better to have a girl because I really didn't know her past. You know what I'm saying? But now I could be with a girl, and if she got a good enough following and a crazy rap sheet,
right?
The society would tell me in a day, like, oh well. And the next thing I know, I see me and 7 other people on Shade Room with the same picture and just different locations with her. And I think that's what also ends up like kind of throwing everything off. But I wanted to actually touch on something too, right? Because we're talking about lies about the lies that are keeping women from finding the man that they would like, right?
We'll find the man that would take them seriously, because you can
like anything.
You.
Yeah. So let's tie that with tricking culture.
Okay.
What would create a man to start tricking? Like, I can't. I know you did have an example of like a man who didn't want, like he might be older, so he's like, I don't want to deal with the mouth and whatnot. But now I'm saying, like, let's just say this is a rare 35-year-old $1 million earner, or not even $500,000 a year earner, right? And he's got himself a 27-year-old woman. So she's not young, but she's mature.
Right.
But every woman he treats, every woman he's getting and got, even prior to his money, he was always frivolous with his resources.
Yeah.
What does that do to the woman? And what does that say about the man, in your opinion?
Well, I think in order to talk about tricking culture, we have to really be honest about the fact that strip club culture became mainstream, right? So when I moved to Atlanta, guys would go to this. First of all, when I was growing up, like a guy wouldn't marry a stripper. Like that was considered taboo, right?
It should go back like that.
Now it's changed. And the rappers were like talking about the strippers, making them the stars. Like they were like do you know how many girls have called me that used to strip and have told me that they are the girlfriend of someone famous because they want me to be their publicist? And I'm like, well, how do you know that he's your boyfriend? And they're like, well, because, he told me. And I'm said, well, if he calls and tells me, then I'll believe that. But the strip club culture really, really glorified tricking culture, right? Because I've been in a club with Atlanta folks, popular celebrities, where 50,000 is thrown by this guy. And then he says, oh, I gotta up the ante. Somebody else is gonna throw 60, right? You've been in a strip club with Floyd Mayweather. You've seen this type of thing. Like you can't. One thing you can't do is out throw Floyd. So so other guys are trying to do it, but the so really it becomes like
A bidding war?
a bidding war, and it's not about the woman, and the woman is used as a pawn, right? So I think in order to really look at that, now you have people saying, "Oh, well, I got my girl this," and it's like, okay, the girl is thinking he really loved me, he bought
Mhm.
me this, but really it's about men. It's about the toxic masculinity of showing this is what I got. So I think that culture became really glorified, and in the like early 2000s, specifically in Atlanta, but it was because of the music, right? And that's what was happening. And music dictates culture, right? So you got T-Pain saying, I'm in love with a stripper. She's doing this, doing that.
Damn, you right. T-Pain, you started it.
T-Pain starting it. And then Tyga married a black child.
I
And
remember
it
when
just
50
kept
Cent
going.
did it. When 50 Cent,
Yeah.
I forgot what stripper it was when he was engaged to one.
Drake put a lot of Malaya
But
in his record.
like,
I know,
we already
I
knew
know,
Drake
I
was
know.
going to do that. Like 50 Cent was the one that was like, "Word?" Like you supposed to be the big bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Damn,
Look,
you're
I
right.
mean, look at the girl that's in between 50 and Diddy now. Like
That's why there's a lot of little sex workers.
It's but that's the thing about it. And I hope women are watching this, because you can never win in that war. Like you can never win as a woman unless your goal is just to get money, but you're going to end up getting played, because a man can play a different game. You have to play a woman's game. You cannot play a man's game. And I think a lot of women think, well, I can use I can use my sexuality and use him, but you can't, because we're built different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we just can't do that. And I think women have to understand their power is in, actually, this is going to sound crazy because we don't like to do it, but your power is in saying no. Because if you're the girl he can't get, he's going to keep chasing. Once you become the girl he got, then you're just a story to brag about. And how many girls have gone through that? Like I said, girls have called me, well, this rapper told me I gave him the best head ever. Do you think he told you that so she would keep giving him the head? Like,
Yeah.
probably. But a lot of times it's instinctive for a woman to want a man to desire her. So like I said, I can't lie. It is a very powerful thing, attraction in that moment. But I think we have to teach our daughters that what the long game looks like. Like, yeah, you can do this when you're in your 20s, but can you imagine being ran through by 10 guys that have a little bit of money and then getting to be 35 and realizing that you don't, okay, now what? And you don't have the same opportunity. So I think that which is why I really do a lot of things that I do, because I feel like women have to understand, like, if you want to get ahead, sis, do your thing, but you got to know that you can't beat a man at a man's game. You really have to understand as a woman. And I feel like women have driven their value down, because this girl told me that Drake told her that she gave him the best head ever. She came with Lil Wayne and she left with Drake. We tapped out. Where are we gonna go now? We're out. We're done. And we're done. Like, you could go through the rest of the crew, but and this person was 37 years old.
Yeah.
40 is coming. Now what?
Well, 40's here now.
Who's gonna pick that up? I mean, so I just think you have to be you got to be smart as a woman to know where your power is. And I can say, like, from going through those stages and seeing how I've seen some wild stuff, the woman who says no has a different type of respect. Then it's like, oh yeah, we did that. I mean, you see Cameron and Mace, like, it's hilarious. But I think a lot of times it can feel very, very powerful. I had a girl tell me that got these implants and she had a horrible situation happen, and she needed, her body just like totally turned on her after getting all this plastic surgery. And she said, Crystal, the power I felt when I got the butt job and the way men treated me, the money they gave me and the money they spent on me, it was addictive. And I just couldn't, because she kept getting
more and more.
More and more and more. But she said, and I was just like, I grew up with a butt my whole life. So I was just like, that's crazy. But she's a beautiful girl. She just was tall and thin. And she said, when I got the butt implants, the sexual attraction it felt so powerful. It made me feel like I was controlled, but that's the trick. She was never in control. Never.
She was just a target.
Yeah.
Another target.
And she didn't get that until it was too late. And now she's like in her 50s with a messed up body.
Casualty of war.
Yeah.
I mean, what, Marie? I mean, and I agree. And I think that that's a great thing that we need to do. I say this, right?
Yeah.
I think that I would say a lot of this has played as a result of things that happened in the 1970s, 80s, 90s about just our culture, our community, men not being there, right? For all the different reasons. And I think that when we see these girls from, let's just say 2005 all the way up to 2015 be the same way with that decade, and they're gonna all, I don't want to say all, but a lot of them have the same results. I think it's a beautiful thing though, because at this point I'm seeing a lot of, well, right now, African American fathers are the most active that they've been in a very long time. Absolutely. I think we all got a lot of daughters, right? And I think I think it's great because sometimes you need to see the opposite side of the spectrum, right? And what it really looks like. Right. And like from your perspective, when you were saying how, like, you seen, your grandparents say that I'm not going to be without an option, or without the ability to utilize my voice. Right. So then you had the rebellious side come in, right? Now the rebellious side then got super freed, right, for the next generation. And now the freedom is actually, hindering a lot of the people in our community in our age bracket.
But I think it's important from my perspective to say that women, for a long time, women were repressed and felt like they didn't have control of their sexuality. So I actually really appreciate the fact that the younger generation, they feel empowered, but unfortunately, I feel like they feel like the only way they can express their power of their sexuality is to share it around and tell everybody how good my stuff is. Like, really, the power is being able to say, you want it, but I control who I share my body with. That's the power. And I think what happened is, because there are so many, unfair stereotypes that and so much gender bias. If a woman does something, she's considered this. If a man doesn't, but that's just life. And I think we have to understand we play by different rules because we're different, and you have to learn what rules serve you. So just sleeping with as many men as possible to prove that you are good in bed is not really taking hold of your sexuality. It's not really being empowered. It's really playing into, the same misogyny that we were fighting against, right? So I think it has to go the other way for people to see. But now when I see young artists, I don't really like a lot of things they're saying, but I understand where it's coming from. But it's just like, sis, you can be powerful and you can be totally in control of your body, but that control does not necessarily mean you have to share it with everybody. Because most women, if they're honest, they've done a lot of sharing that they really didn't want to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And in the moment, it can get deceitful. But when you come on the other side, it's like, I ain't even really want to do that. Yep. So I think that it has to come to a place where you can be sitting on a gold mine, but it's still gold, even if everybody hasn't tested it out. In fact, it makes it more valuable.
I'm about to say it's actually pure, right? So do you think, another lie, right, that has been told, do you think that, or obviously it's the possibilities, but what are the odds of rebounding your, I don't want to say innocence, but rebounding your value in the later years of your life after having a very frivolous sex life when you were younger, and finding that man that can know who you were and accept who you are? What would you say that is?
I think that's very powerful. I think that the biggest hurdle is for you to get over your own issues. I think Aretha Franklin said a rose is still a rose. So
yeah, but she was definitely dead.
Don't do that to the
rose could die. You ever see the rose that when you touch it break apart?
It can, but my point is, it's still a rose, right? So even if you go through even if you've gone through something that is you've done to yourself. And I've talked to a lot of girls. I used to have a charm and etiquette class, right? I've talked to a lot of girls that have made some mistakes, but I don't think your mistakes define you. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. So I would say to any young women that are out there and have made some mistakes, that once you see yourself different, other people will. And the ones that don't aren't for you anyway, because you really, in my opinion, not necessarily Rico's.
Yeah.
You really only need one, right? You really only need one at the end of the day to see you as a queen. A million men can think you're beautiful, but just because they think you're beautiful doesn't mean they're going to see you as their wife, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you start to carry yourself in a way that you know your own value and you understand who you are, that other people will, the people that are for you will start to gravitate towards that because they have no choice. Like, you know, you can rebound from anything. A person can be in prison for 20 years, come out, turn their life around. So you could do whatever. I think the problem is a lot of times most people don't believe it themselves. And men are very good at seeing through bullshit. When women try to act like, oh, just because you look good on the outside, you're pulled together, does not mean that you have their self-esteem matches your outside. And they can, I don't know how it is, y'all can see through the self-esteem. What is that?
Well, you want me to be honest?
Yeah.
Listen, it's gonna sound crazy. Instagram might go crazy if they hear this. One of the first things that was told to me by the OGs when I was in high school, said, I don't care how beautiful a woman is, she's always insecure.
Damn.
And going through my life, he hasn't been wrong. So like when we can always see the self-esteem issue.
Man can see that. That's why it's so important for women to do the work.
Yeah.
Like I went on a Iyanla Vanzant and she, that was one of a breakthrough experiences for me. But one of the things that she always says is you have to do your work. It sounds crazy, but that's proof. Like if you don't do your work, other people can see. Other people can see, and specifically the other sex, because I think we're a reflection of each other, right? Man is strong, woman is soft. Like we're a reflection. And so when you show up in an authentic way, it's very apparent. And it's very hard for someone to love you unconditionally if you don't love yourself unconditionally. Yep. So you can't expect, and it's very hard for someone to respect you if you don't respect yourself. So I think a lot of times men are testing women and we usually fail the test. And when you don't, it's crazy like how the tides turn.
I think, so nowadays, right, with I would say today's younger generation of men, they are easily fooled now, right? Versus prior, like, you know, before my elders put me on game. Right. Now we try to teach the game to the young ones and they're like, no, it's not the same game. And it really is. Right. And so now they're able to be fooled. So now you're seeing it actually flip a little bit. Well, I'm seeing it actually flip a little bit with the success rate of the woman that doesn't have to do the work because she's still able to get this man who thinks it is what it isn't. Now, I wanted to bring something up again because I really like the analogy that you used about the guy being able to, you know, rebound his life after, you know, doing a prison sentence, for example. And I want to say that I think, well, I don't even want to say I think. Scratch that. I know. There's a variable that doesn't get taken into consideration when it comes to living the life that you think that you're okay to live. Right. And just as a felon can no longer hold a gun. Yeah. Someone who is, you know, sexually liberated and acting on it, you can find someone that loves you. Yeah. But you still get disqualified from a certain group. Absolutely. Right. And sometimes I think it's very important to not disqualify yourself from the race. Right. Because what you might want might be in that race. Right. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, there's always consequences to actions. Yeah. Just because you change and you can have a great life doesn't mean that you won't have to suffer those consequences, right? Yep. So if, like you said with a felon, you can't, some jobs are not going to hire a felon. I don't care what you do.
Yep. Or how great you are.
Yeah, I don't care. So you have to figure out a different way. And I think finding yourself and acknowledging your reality is a big thing. I think it's a big thing in dating, period, because sometimes you may not have done anything. The person you want may just not want you. And you have to know that. You have to be okay with that. if you are wanting something that is very different than what you are, chances are it's not going to want you back,
Mhm.
you know?
And I think, like, you know what it is? A lot of people, we tell kids to go to college, right?
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, you should go to college.
You could be anything you want.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, that is true. But,
Kinda.
well, I don't believe that
Right.
you know what I'm saying? But I'm saying in the general sense,
Right.
it's true. Go to college and then you could be anything you want to be, even if it's not the degree you had. Right?
Right.
So, but when I look at it, I'm like, why do we tell all these kids to go to college, right?
Mhm.
And this has nothing to do about it really being a beneficial thing. A lot of people that go to college aren't technically educated anyways.
Facts.
But they can have an education that's reputable.
It proves you stuck something through and you accomplished a goal.
A goal,
That's
right?
pretty much what it proves.
But you know what it also does? It leaves your options open.
Yeah.
Right? So even if you don't go to school,
Mhm.
even if you don't go and get the career that, specified in your major,
Mhm.
maybe 10 years from now, when you're not 22, when you're 32, you might have went to school as a biology major, hypothetically, and you went and pursued acting.
Right.
And now at 32, you've actually learned something that you never knew before that makes you want to study medicine.
Right. And now you have that foundation.
Exactly. And I think that if we look at dating in the same aspect, right? Not eliminating yourselves from what you can get
Mhm.
by just doing the things that you need to do to make you qualified for what you may want futuristically, even if you don't know if you want it, right?
Right.
Like I went to school,
Right.
and it didn't work out for me, but I knew what I wanted though.
Right.
But I'm doing what I wanted to do, so I'm
So it did
blessed.
work out. Our culture switched. And like when I was growing up, I used to want to be like Felicia Rashad. I remember Maya Angelou, she told me she was proud of me for what I was doing. I was like, oh my God. Like that was a big deal to me, right? Because I looked up to women that were older. But at this point, older women want to be younger.
Yep.
Right. So you have 40-year-old women and 46-year-old women trying to look like and act like the 23-year-old. Then how do you know? Because when you're young, you don't think there's consequences, right?
Yeah.
The only way you know there's consequences is someone, like you said, the OG pulls you to the side and is like, look. So I feel like the problem is in our culture specifically, like we don't value experience and age. Like I look to those women for what I want it to be. But there's nobody like that now. Like now, I mean, there are some. There's some amazing, but really the culture is chasing youth. So it's like backwards. The older women want to be young. That's the only thing. Like there are women, and I'm not, this is no disrespect, but no women in their 60s getting BBLs. Like,
That's crazy.
what is
right?
happening? What are we doing? So how can a woman who's 23 trust your leadership if you're trying to look like her? Felicia Rashad wasn't trying to look like I was trying to look like I was trying to be like her. But if she was on the stage with, her butt out and trying to look like me, then I wouldn't have respected her. So I feel like we don't, of course people don't believe there's consequences because the older people are lying. They're
Yep.
lying. They're lying. They're chasing the same thing. So you have rappers in their 40s and 50s getting into beef with Kodak Black. Like that makes no sense. There should be like in order to lead, you have to lead by example.
Yeah.
And to me, everybody is chasing the youth, the younger culture, which makes them disrespect. Why would I look at you? You want to be like me.
Well, I think another thing is, and I'll take the accountability for the men, and I hate that I have to do that right now. But there's a lot of older men that want to be young,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And a lot of times it's the ones I would say
Mhm.
that aren't married.
It
And
always.
so now they want to be young so they can get the young
women.
girl, right? And now you have the older women
Mhm.
who want to look young because the one in her age group is looking at the younger girl and dressing young and
Yeah.
damn near acting young,
Acting young. Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like, at what point are we going to have people that want to actually be a real community role model?
Well, I think it takes, like I said earlier, like I know I'm gonna say something that your audience is not gonna like. And that's okay.
That's
I'm
beautiful.
okay with them not liking it because I know I'm right. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because I've already lived that, and I've lived that, and I've seen it. So I know, but I think we have to be okay. This cancel culture and people feeling like they have to placate what's popular is a problem. People know, but they're just quiet. And you're
Mhm.
right. There is, like, for hip hop, that is one thing I can say I really do appreciate about Jay-Z is he did show his maturity. Maturation is a beautiful thing. But unfortunately for women, there's very few examples of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're wearing the same get up that you were in your 20s and you're acting the same, that's a problem. You know what I mean? So I think that, and I feel like that's a part of what I have to do. I have to say, uh, that's not, it doesn't make you powerful. It doesn't make you a boss to have sex with all these guys. And if you get mad at me, that's okay. But at least I planted that seed
Yeah.
because that's what I'm supposed to do. Just like when I was younger watching Claire Huxtable, she was just fly, but she also was not saying the same thing that I was thinking when I was watching it. She was leading by example. I might not have agreed with it, but now that I'm older, I get it. So I think that you have to, our culture has to embrace that. And I think people that are older, we have to be brave enough to make young people mad.
Hmm.
And, it's like, Carisha, please, that's a whole like I'm not gonna agree with her. She's not gonna agree with me. And that's how it should be. If I
Yeah.
did agree with Carisha, what the hell have I been doing for these 20 years? If I
Mhm.
haven't grown, we should not agree, right? So, but I know people my age that want to cater to that. It's like, and I'm like, girl, that makes that's a city. Like, I can't be I'm not a girl.
50 years old.
But that's a
I'm not a
problem.
girl. I'm a
I'm
woman.
a woman, but that's a problem. The problem is we don't want to piss them off because they're louder, but they need us.
Yep.
They need us. And if they don't agree, my daughter didn't agree when I told her that she couldn't wear certain things to school, but my daughter is 28 years old now and she gets what I was saying. You know what I mean? So, but if I was saying the same things that she was, I would, my grandmother used to always say, it's nothing worse than being old for no reason. And there are a lot of people in our culture that are old for no reason, just old. Now you just look worse. Because
With a platform.
with a platform, it's like no matter what a woman does that is in her 50s, you could be gorgeous. You're still not in your 20s, and you shouldn't be. You
Yep.
shouldn't be because you have the maturity and the wisdom, and you're supposed to be able to take them under your wing and say, "Girl, I got you." And you have so many more opportunities. I can add my wisdom to that and help you push you forward.
Why do you think? All right, so obviously addiction is like a drug, right? I mean, not addiction. Duh,
Attention.
attention is a drug, right? But why is it like? Why is it so? I guess addictive to the point where you're like, you don't want to grow. You know what I'm saying? Like what about it makes you not want to say, okay, it's time for me to go to the next level in my life, or let me go to the bigger step, the bigger
Yeah.
picture, which actually has more money because you know
Does
what I
have more
mean?
money, but there are a lot of people that are driven by. There are a lot of people that would rather be popular than rich. Like, really, like, I know that from working with celebrities. Like, some of them, if you say, "I'm gonna give you $50,000 or I'm gonna give you a brand deal that puts you on billboards across the country," they would pick that because they get addicted to people seeing them and recognizing them. That has more value to them than actually the money. I also wanna be honest because it's a different, like I told you earlier, that power of feeling like a man's attracted to you, it feels good, right? And I think the same thing with men. A man wants to know that that he can catch, that he can hunt and he can get that and he can capture and take it back. A woman wants to know that she can show up in all her feminine glory and be attractive and desirable. And as you age, it changes, right? And it's a little daunting because it's different. So I know I love my husband to death, and I know that he loves me. But when I go out, I have a different response than I did when I went out in my 20s. And I have and sometimes that can get to you. It's like, man, I used to be, and it's changed a little bit, right? But you have to know that it's different levels. And when I see my daughter doing that, I'm like, okay, it's kind of like in the Lion King when Mufasa was like, the sun has set on my time. Now the sun is on your time. Like, you have to know when it's time for you to go to that next place. But I'm not gonna lie and say that it can't, it doesn't, it is a little bit like it's any type of growth is uncomfortable. So you have to be willing to go through that. And I think you also have to see value in yourself. And if your only value has been in being attractive, if you've never focused on anything other than getting men's attention, then you're going to have a hard time getting older.
You know what I just kind of like gathered right now? You said often that a lot of people they either do things for money or they do things for attention, but the attention feels empowering. So if I say power, so we have a lot of people nowadays that want to do things for money. They want to do things for power. People don't want to value respect.
Yeah.
And when you have respect, you have more power that can earn you limitless money.
That's true.
And I think that we got the game messed up because we value so many people who have money and power but no respect.
Right.
But we don't want to value the people that have respect that got them money and power. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Kendrick because he kind of said that, you know, in his in his thing. Well, he did. He said, you know, money, power, respect, but the last one is better.
Yeah.
And
that takes a person that understands the long game. That also takes wisdom to understand that, because it's like the tangible things are the things that if you're dealing with your self-esteem, you're trying to figure out who you are. Respect is not something that you can like. It's something that you can feel, but it's not something you get an immediate gratification upon, right? It's something that's built over time. So you pull up in that brand new something, and it's immediate gratification. The girls is coming out. A friend of mine just got a brand new Maserati, and he's like, I pull up in this, I get all the girls. Duh. I'm like, that's not a big deal. But to him, he wants that immediate gratification. The same thing with power. When a person when you see what people will do, I've seen, and I'm definitely like all for women. Like I said, I've done Charm and Etiquette. I love empowering women. I've seen women do stupid stuff because, like, okay, I've been in studios and the girls will just start. I was at a party this is what I first learned. Because at first I was like, men are the problem. You know, it's men. Hip hop is misogynistic. I was like writing essays about it because I've always been a writer. I was really like, black men are just not respecting women. I moved to Atlanta, started representing rappers. I was like, it's not them, it's us. I went to a party that T.I. and Michael Vick had. I have never seen such beautiful women doing things that nobody had asked them to do.
Yep.
No one had even asked them to do it. I'm like, at least be smart. Like, wait until there's a dollar amount offer. Like, what are you doing? What are you looking for right now? Because you're just in violation. And it's like a thirst and a hunger to just be near. Like, you're not going to take him home. What are you? You just want his attention for the moment. It's wild. And that happens and so I can understand as a man how that could get addictive and also boring.
Yeah.
Because they'll do whatever. So, okay, so let me see you do this. Let me see you do that.
And then and he's up.
It ups. So, I mean, but that let me know that it's not necessarily, men are not always the motivators behind women's bad behavior. Sometimes it's just them, just like we talked about men wanting to show off to other men. Sometimes women want to show other women, I'm the baddest in the room. I can get it. And I'm like, but what are you getting? This is going to be a very quick, very unsatisfying situation.
Validation is like a disease at this point.
But it's because you're not happy with yourself. Because there's no way that you should be taking. I would be like, he didn't even ask you to take off your clothes yet. Like, at least just hold on until he asks. Let him ask. Because how is he going to value it if you just do it? And I've also been on, you know, when videos were a big deal. When I first moved there, we were still doing a lot of videos, right? And I remember thinking, because I moved there and I used to work corporate, so I thought, oh, I'll go to a video set and all the guys are going to be just, you know, I thought, oh my God, you'll lose your husband in one of these things. First of all, because guys they're numb because they see naked women doing crazy things all the time because they have money or because they're around money. I'm not T.I. or Michael Vick. I'm just hanging out. And I'm going to get some of that just because I'm associated with it, right? So
it's hard to say no.
They're not going to say no. Why would they? They can't outrun it. Like, I can't. It's too fast.
Who am I to say no to God's child?
If I'm not a dream killer. If she wants to do this, let her do what she wants to do. I can't even blame them. But my point is like the men don't. I remember I was sitting down. We were a video shoot for with Ti, Scrappy, and a bunch. This was like early 2000s, and I thought that they were all going to just be enamored with the girls because the girls were beautiful. Myself and another, we were publicists on set, junior publicists on set, and they were all sitting around talking. We were just talking, really talking, and it's like, wow, they actually can see through it. Now, when it came time to party, they party, but really, men are not as driven by one physical motivator as women think. And I think you have to understand what it is about you that's dope outside of your curves and your sex in order for you to think that he would,
Yeah.
you know?
Like well, I actually said this on the podcast here before, or on the episode here before. Women have to find another way to compete with each other rather than getting naked. Because
don't compete, just be you.
Well, yeah, I think competition. Well, that is. Oh, I'm sorry. That is a part of competing, right? If they compete by being themselves,
yeah.
The problem is if you lose, it hurts your ego, right? Because you're like, damn, I wasn't picked,
Right.
But that's okay because that's how you know it really wasn't for you.
Right. That takes a lot of maturity to get to that point.
But like, I don't think that's a maturity thing that we have to wait through years of life. I think that is something that we should be able to instill, I would say within high school, be yourself and whoever's for you is for you.
Right.
Try it out. And I promise you, if you go the other way, maybe one or two experiences, you'll see how it doesn't work in your favor.
Yeah.
And when that level of competition or that type of competitive spirit stops, where they're competing to be nude or just to do more, right? To have less.
Right.
Then we can have,
it's going to take like real people like yourself to say that, because what people want to hear is, if I get enough money. I remember one of my guy friends told me, actually it was a guy I was dating, told me this. He said, my grandfather told me, if I get enough money, I can have any woman I want.
Mm-hmm.
Which is true to an extent, but that woman probably is not going to want you.
But that's not a man, though.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying, like, that's what we want to hear. So a woman wants to hear, I want to be so bad I can get any dude in the room. Well, that's not real. And so someone needs to say, that's not really, like, really what's for you is going to be for you. And anytime you have to change who you are for something, it's probably not really for you. But that's not the answer that people want to hear. People want to hear, I can ball out and get what I want. I sleep when I die. Like, if you sleep when you die, you're going to be sick. That is dumb. That is stupid. But that sounds great.
But, I'm not going to lie. Also, the thing is, another lie that's told, and this is the part that's told by men, is like, money is what matters. You feel me? So, like, men think that money is what matters. And although it does, and I'm never going to take it away.
Right.
But there's a lot. Well, here's a lie for you women. There's a lot of men that hide behind his money. And when you learn that men are hiding behind money, he doesn't really know who he is.
We already know that.
Yeah, but they still do it?
No, we know that we're using him. So women know that. In fact, that plays into our game. So that's women know. Gotcha. We're well aware that
you
men
can tell
hide
which
behind.
one is.
Yeah, just like you can tell the insecure women, we can tell the insecure men, because the insecure man will offer. That's what so many guys get upset about tricking. A lot of times, just like I said, the girls are getting naked without being asked. Men are offering to do things without a woman asking. And I'm just like, I've always been a girl that works, get her own. When I first got there, do you know how many guys offered? They offered to do, like, I'm not even asking. It's very hard for me to turn down.
Yeah.
It's not really fair for me to do that.
Who might tell God's child no?
Yeah, no. So I'm saying men do the same thing. And so when a man doesn't know you, but he's just offering to pay bills, or he's offering to, I was telling my friend earlier, when my son got ready to go to college, I was trying to come up with $20,000 like quick. I was like, I gotta get this money. And this guy was like, that I didn't like, was like, I'll give you the money. And so one of my other guy friends was like, tell him to give it to you in cash, like right now. So why would you offer to pay $20,000? Like and he knew I wasn't into him. So that's not on me. That's on him. And I know he's insecure. So I mean, women, we already know that. You're not telling us a secret. We know, and we use that to our benefit. So a lot of times women, that's what I tell men, that I probably shouldn't, because I'm not having my sister's back. But really, like, any girl you gotta buy really don't want you.
Thank you, Crystal. I was trying to say it, but maybe it's better when you say it.
They're not gonna like me to say it, because I really did go against girl code, because we Well, I mean, it gets what they want because men are. We know that if a man is insecure, you can play to his ego and he'll give you whatever you want.
Yeah.
But except make you his, right? He's not gonna
Mhm.
necessarily marry you, but he'll give you money and stuff because that's what he needs to do to feel
Feel
manly.
big,
Yeah,
little guy. We've always glorified the wrong people.
yeah,
And so our downfall usually stems from the top down,
yeah.
right? And it's the people that we voted in power, whether or not we realize we voted in power. We're the one who bought those CDs.
Right.
We're the one who paid for that music. We're the one who put you in a position to have this
Championed it.
money.
We have been taught. That's why I remember I had the honor of interviewing Cicely Tyson, like 6 months before she died.
Wow.
And I asked her about the Me Too movement because I was just like, I know being in entertainment in Atlanta, it was not safe for a woman. Like you come in a room, you're uncomfortable and you're groped. You can't say anything because other people aren't going to want to work with you if you say something. So I was a little bit better because I was older and I was married and I knew how to, I had 2 kids. Like I wasn't necessarily the target, but I still got a lot of things that made me uncomfortable, and I had a lot of people I had to check or just stop working with, you know what I mean? But I remember asking her, what did she think about the Me Too movement? And she said, that's not our business, right? She said, that's not white women's business and our business are 2 different things. Our culture is different. So, do you know how many black women were assaulted, raped, but we just don't talk? We would never come out the way some others has. And some of those, and some things I think I understand it, but I also think it's part of our keeps us stuck because there's this unspoken
Mm-hmm.
loyalty to each other because we know that not many of us, if Diddy and Jay-Z are 2 billionaires and we only have a few, I don't want them to go down. Like that makes me look bad. So I can't say anything. And I understand where that loyalty comes, but it also
It,
keeps us down,
of course. It honestly, again, it'll only lead us further astray. And we gotta I pray and hopefully, within this my lifetime, everybody who doesn't belong in a position of power won't, right? That's probably never gonna happen. But at least balance it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right now, I feel like it's a 9-1 odd. The 9-1 that are with the
shits.
with the shits, right? That are doing things that will go against a lot of people's morals. And there's one person who's standing there and he's like, I can't, or she is like, I can't fight that fight with 9 of them.
Yeah.
And my thing is, I would pray that it at least gets to a 5-4 or like a 5-on-5. And it's not going to until we start having these different types of things. Now, I do know that there's a lot of consent that goes on in these places. I also do know that there's some that aren't really consented, right? And the second that we start to stop enabling our successors who are actually our demise,
Yeah.
that's the second that we'll be able to be at a better, position as a community. Because if we like, for example, we seeing on a smaller scale, we're seeing a lot of black fathers that are now, coming to the forefront and being good fathers, right?
Right.
You know what happened? Black fathers had to check other black men.
Mhm.
Yo, if you're not gonna take care of your kids, you can't be my friend. I'm
Yeah.
definitely not gonna be around you, and you got two
Right.
kids at home that you don't even see. That's or at somebody else's house.
Right.
And so after a while, now you're seeing the tides shift. We're all kind of collectively. I thought it was so funny. I just saw a dude doing a remix, doing like one of those like freestyles with his daughter in his hand.
Oh.
And I thought it was funny. It was cool. He was saying like, yo, my daughter's bad and she don't want to listen. But that's kind of funny because it is what it is. But now we're actually seeing that being the spotlight. So it's gonna take time, but I do think everything will weed itself out. And unfortunately, what's gonna happen is, the people who are in those positions of power that are doing the with the shits things, they're gonna burn their resources and favors or bridges and favors, and eventually that's gonna open up spots for then the people to come and fill them. And now I just hope that we have people that are going to actually hold us to a higher standard.
Yeah.
And gonna value the respect and not the money, because anybody can pay you to do anything.
That's hard. Yeah,
Yeah,
money and
well,
fame
money and
is a
fame.
very hard thing to fight. But I do think
Like
I will
Like
say,
Nipsey Hussle was with
yeah,
he had
yeah,
respect,
yeah,
and then he had money
yeah.
and fame,
And
but he had
he's
fame from respect.
a one of one, a one of one. But I do think that things are changing, and I do have to credit the younger generation because there's the funny thing is because they don't have respect. Like a lot of them
Yeah.
don't respect. They don't respect anything. So it's like I'm not gonna keep your secret. F you. I'm saying what I want to say, and I actually like really admire that because for years we were just like, oh, don't say nothing.
Oh,
Like,
master.
yeah, and it's like you said, consent. Consent is a funny thing because if you're told you're not going to have this opportunity unless you do this, then you will consent, but it's not necessary. It's made under duress, but that's also some accountability that you have to take for yourself. And I think that's what Cicely Tyson was saying. She was like, we don't, as Black women, we just are different in the way we do things, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the regime is changing because I said young people don't have that same loyalty to a system that has not served them well.
Yeah.
So it's like you want us to be quiet, but why? I'm
Yep.
not. And so I admire that and I'm glad, but it is uncomfortable. It's hard to see people. It broke my heart to see what happened with Bill Cosby, but it needed to happen. You know what I mean? Like to the extent, I don't know everything, but I'm just saying if somebody is doing things like that, then they need to be held accountable. Even with R. Kelly, like we can admire the art, but we have to say it's yes, this person has done something because it was probably done to them. Most of the people in the industry that are with the shits were probably done to them when they were trying to get in or they were trying to do things. So it's just a
Great
trickle
point.
down effect. But I do think in order for things to change, there have to be people that are not connected and don't feel a loyalty to that and really are willing to stand up and make things uncomfortable because like I said earlier, like you have to be uncomfortable to grow. So I do think we're growing and I can say being a woman in entertainment because I did not want my daughter in the business. I was just like, no, because I seen girls get naked in the studio, having sex in the studio, in the sound booth to be able to stay in the room like and I didn't want my daughter to be around that. And of course my daughter wanted to be a part of the music industry. But I can say now she's a DJ and there are other female DJs that put her on. There are other female DJs that have her back. You know what I mean? And so that wasn't the case. It was very male dominated and very much a thing of you're not getting in this door unless you get on your knees. Like that is not
Mhm.
yeah, that's just real. So of course, I didn't want her to have to deal with that. So me seeing other women reach out and grab her and say that are younger and say, we got you. Like that's cool to me. So I think things are changing and her generation, they're not going to be quiet. They're going to
Yeah.
go to Instagram and they're going to keep talking. So in that way, I think it's positive because it's really shaking up something that really shouldn't have. We just had created a really toxic system.
Well, I think it goes to show again with just what has happened, right? The people who had power are losing power. It's like holding on to a rope, but you can only hold the rope for so long before it starts to slip.
Yeah.
Right. And I think at this point, like social media, one of the beautiful things about social media is it allows you to literally create a business,
Yeah.
a lucrative business at that, without having to sacrifice some of your own ethics.
Right.